Perfect. So, today I chose to do for my course project personality disorders, and of course, I am Sean Frens. So, to start, there's about 10 personality disorders that they have listed. A lot of times, these personality disorders can allow someone to actually function in society. They can actually walk around, they could be walking amongst us right now. But often they have a disorder, and it brings a maladaptive pattern of behavior, and so sometimes they don't handle situations or challenges correctly, and so it generally affects 2 out of 4 areas. So that those areas are cognition, or the way they think, of the way they feel, the way that they relate to others, and also that the way that they control their behavior in those challenging and unique environments. So to start, we have 3 separate clusters for the behaviors. We have one that's marked by odd and eccentric behavior, one that's marked by overdramatic, highly emotional, generally unpredictable behavior, and one that's fearful and anxious behavior patterns. So, to start, cluster 1 is the paranoid personality disorder. So, paranoid personality, they generally have pervasive distrust of others. They are suspicious. They're always looking out for clues to validate their fears that other people shouldn't be trusted. It's more common amongst men. They say about 2.3 to 4.4%, and and so some evidence even suggests that there's a link between the emotional and physical abuse during childhood to this. And so, no good. Schizoid personality. Schizoid personality disorder is characterized by a lack of interest in areas that are typically enjoyable to most people. So these people, they're not going to actually enjoy the things that a lot of people will enjoy. So like social relationships, they're generally more solitary, and they're kind of seen as loners often. So the schizotypal personality, that's still in cluster 1. This one's most commonly, just think magical thinking. They generally think that whatever they're thinking is true, very disorganized, and their thought patterns just don't cohere. It's about 3.9% of the U.S. population is thought to have it. And with people with schizotypal personality disorder, they'll often have a higher likelihood for developing schizophrenia in the future. And so, moving right along, we have cluster 2, as I said before, overdramatic, emotional, erratic, and unpredictable behavioral markers. So the first one, antisocial personality. Antisocial personality is definitely more common in men than women. And these people, they just have no feeling for others. They really think that losers are meant to lose, that victims are meant to be victimized, and that it's their fault for any situation that they got themselves into. They're often aggressive. They get into fights a lot. They don't really learn from their mistakes, and they think that other people owe them a debt. They can appear charming on the outside, but they often have like tempers and fiery relationships, and the relationships are known to implode at a moment's notice. And this one is the personality disorder that is most closely associated with breaking the law. So a lot of people with antisocial personality disorder will go to jail at some point in their lives, and so definitely something to be aware of in the future. Borderline personality, also known as BPD, it's reported that 1.6 to 5.9%, depending on the source you're looking at, is who has it, how many people have it in the United States. So the prevalence is about 75% of patients diagnosed with this disorder are female. But in the U.S. population, they think the ratio is closer to 1 to 1. I thought that was a little interesting. But borderline personality, obviously, fear of abandonment. That's what you got to think of. Yes. And they're lacking emotional sentiment and a deep sense of self. So, histrionic personality. These people, they often try to be seductive or provocative to get what they want. So they do things to try to get others' attention. This is more common in women than in men, but it only affects, it generally affects under 2% of the population. They really just try to do what they think the other person wants in order to get them to like them. So women will often use their bodies or use their sexuality in order to get men to bend to their will. But if that's not working, they will also look submissive often just so that they can retain others' attention and feel a sense of value. So narcissistic personality, with our current political climate, you hear this word thrown around a ton. But obviously, narcissistic personality, it's an extreme feeling of self-importance. It's like entitlement. You need to be heard, need to be admired, need to feel that other people value you. You're very self-absorbed, often can be controlling, intolerant, selfish of others. This is generally more common in men than women, and it's up to like 6.2% of the U.S. population, based on some studies. So 6.2 is actually a pretty statistically significant amount. So it's definitely something to be aware of, especially if you're thinking of going into practice later in the future. And of course, the last cluster, these are associated with anxious and fearful behaviors. So we have an avoidant personality. Honestly, fear of being embarrassed, criticized, or rejected. They're really just going to avoid social interactions if they don't think that they're going to be well received or liked. Dependent personality. This is a little different, obviously, but they feel like they cannot function adequately without the help of other people. So they don't have like a strong sense of self. This is fewer than 1% of the population. I would think with American culture being such an independent American dream type place, that this would be even lower in our population, but they often will seem naive and childlike. And then OCPD is different than OCD, but OCPD, they really believe, just like OCD, but they really believe that what they're doing, they actually need to do. And so they often believe their behaviors depict reality. As far as risk when working with this personality disorder, there's just a lot of risk when working with these. I think it's always good to think about the ethical engagements when dealing with these. A lot of people choose not to even engage with this kind of clientele because it can get dangerous. It's really tough to figure out how to treat them, and a lot of them actually can't or don't respond well to treatment. So real quick, cluster A. Mistrust, suspicion, disinterest, eccentric behavior. Cluster B, fear of abandonment, irregular emotions. So these are high conflict personality types. They really have a hard time managing their emotions, extreme behavior, especially, looking at the antisocial personality disorder. These people got to be careful of. Treatment, standard treatment, we're looking at SSRIs, MAOIs, SNRIs, and a lot of talk therapy. We're going to go through talk therapy and something to stabilize their mood. So right here you can see a quick list, and my references will be put on the next page. Thank you. I know I went a little bit of a minute over, but there's a lot to talk about within this, and I just feel like it's really tough to get it all succinctly input between 1 to 7 minutes, so that's tough. But hopefully you enjoyed the presentation, and hit me up if you got questions. See you later.